Elseworlds, Elseworlds, gonna be talking about Elseworlds. Welcome back, everybody, to another Plus U crash course where I will not break down a piece of media and just basically tell you whether or not you should invest your time into it. If you want, leave a piece of media in the comment section down below. That way I can know whether or not I should do it on the next episode of Crash Course. At the end, I'm gonna put up a list of things that people have submitted, so that way you can be like, oh, well, I think that's a cool one, if you don't have one yourself that you want to do. Today we're going to be talking about the DC TV crossover event of 2018, Elseworlds. I know that a lot of people have submitted some other things, but a lot of it has been anime. I kind of wanted to break the mold of anime. And I did have a plan to make a video containing information about Elseworlds on like last Friday or something like that, but then the Avengers trailer came out and I was like, well, that's got to get out there first. If you have seen me like looking down over here, I've tried to shoot this like 3 times and I've gone over like 20 minutes talking about this, so I had to keep like a timer on. So I'm gonna try and make this like short and sweet so that I don't like stay out here forever. That being said, let's get into this plot. Now, I'm only going to be going over things that were introduced in the trailers or in the like promotions that they made for Elseworlds. I'm going to be referring to characters by their name so that way I don't get too confused or anything like that. But I'm not going to be spoiling anything that really happens in the thing. I'm just going to be using a lot of things that you might not know for the initial setup, because that's what they presented. You just might not know their names. But you could literally find them out if you just Googled who they were when the promos came out. So, yeah. So Elseworlds follows the actions of Marnovu, aka the Monitor, as he uses the Book of Destiny to test different realities' heroes, so that way he can see whether or not they are prepared for what he believes is an impending crisis. His actions, although, cause much wanton destruction across the multiple different Earths that he visits. One of the survivors, the Flash from Earth 90, played by John Wesley Shipp, as a reference, if not a continuation, to his Flash series in the 90s, manages to escape Marnovu and tries to track him when he goes to the Prime Earth, which is where the Flash and Green Arrow reside in the Arrowverse. The Monitor then gives the Book of Destiny to John Deegan, a deranged psychologist who believes that if he gives his patients metahuman abilities, that he can offset their psychosis. So that way, Deegan can use the Book of Destiny to rewrite reality, forcing the heroes of the Prime Earth to act in order to stop him. Deegan's reality warp causes the realities of the Flash and Green Arrow to swap, so everybody thinks that originally Barry Allen is now Oliver Queen, and that Oliver Queen was originally Barry Allen, but the two of them remember how reality is supposed to be, so they work together in order to try and figure out whether or not they're crazy or if something is truly wrong. After trying to consort the Flash's team with what's going on, because they're kind of the science team and they're not able to figure out anything, the two decide to recruit Supergirl, who exists on a different Earth, because she might not have been affected by the reality warp and she will be able to tell them whether or not they're crazy. She confirms they're not crazy. They manage to get her on their side, and together the 3 heroes work to figure out what is going on with the reality on Earth Prime. The appeal of Elseworlds is basically a comic book fan's fantasy. The crossover events that the CW does are always over the top with awesome things that you can just come back to as a comic book fan. I mean, there are Easter eggs upon Easter eggs. One of the big ones, and I mean probably the biggest one that they did for this crossover event, was that it actually had you go to Gotham City for the first time. That's not a spoiler, that's also in like the promotions and everything. I'm just saying they actually go to Gotham City, and they might meet a very pointy-eared vigilante that protects Gotham. Another appealing aspect is that on the CW app or on the CW's website, you can actually watch Elseworlds for free in its own little separate section. They always branch off the crossover event in its own little category, so that way you can watch it without watching everything else or trying to figure out which episode it is and blah, 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 blah. Because, I mean, the crossover events are, I'm not going to say they're always the best episodes of the season, but yeah, they out there. Now let's go ahead and get into some faults. I got a big one that does kind of go into some spoiler stuff because you had to get through everything else to actually get to it. And it's not even really like a spoiler, it's just like a concern. So I don't really count it as a fault. But let's get through this other stuff first. All right, first thing first. The Easter eggs. I know that I said that I enjoyed them, but I'm also a comic book fan and I also know what they are. The Easter eggs themselves do not pertain to anything previously stated in the Arrowverse. It's kind of like they just throw in comic book elements so that you can just see whether or not where they could potentially go or what you might enjoy. But it's kind of random. If you don't really know it and you just kind of watch the Arrowverse for what it is now, you don't really read comics and stuff like that, but you like the Arrowverse for what it is, it could probably throw you off a bit. And if you're not into the Arrowverse or into comics, it's gonna definitely throw you off a bit. Another thing that I would say is probably a fault is that they kind of expect you to have watched the earlier parts of the seasons. They don't spend a lot of time going over the early parts of the seasons for the characters, but the characters are set up based off of whatever was going on in the earlier half of the season, because the crossovers happen right after the mid-season finale. So the characters are always at weird places whenever the crossover starts, and if you don't know what had happened to them previously, you might feel a little bit lost. But if you can get past those faults and everything, then you might enjoy Elseworlds, blah, 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 blah. All right, we gonna get into a spoilerish thing because I can't believe they actually did this. So I'm gonna X out right now. When you see me get the thumbs up, you can like unmute it. Just mute it. I don't want you to go nowhere, but just mute it because you don't see me flailing and stuff like that. But yeah, when you see this thumbs up again, you can unmute. All right. Crisis on Infinite Earths? Crisis on Infinite Earths? Who in the writer's room decided? Y'all bold! Y'all bold! For a group of heroes that couldn't even touch the monitor, y'all want them to go up against the anti-monitor? The anti-monitor? Anyone who didn't just like unmute anyone who didn't just mute their thing or whatever, and you don't know what I'm talking about, look up the anti-monitor. Look up the anti-monitor. Tell me that somebody from the Arrowverse is fighting that dude. They couldn't even touch the regular monitor. And he ain't nothing compared to the anti-monitor. What's going on here? What's going on? I'm hyped. Y'all did it? I'm concerned. Cause like if y'all busting out the anti-monitor, are some shows leaving? Huh? Some people retiring? Is Arrow going off? Legends going on? I don't know what show. Somebody going off. I don't believe that there ain't nobody going off after next year if y'all gonna throw Crisis on Infinite Earths out there. Like, somebody making sacrifices. Somebody not coming back. I don't know who. I don't know how. I don't know what's been going on. But y'all. Oh, I got something for y'all. Next year, y'all said fall 2019, Crisis on Infinite Earths. For anyone that didn't heed my warning and y'all just decided to watch through this part, to explain in terms of both comic books and then to movies. If you're not really a comic book fan, Crisis on Infinite Earths is as much of a big deal as Infinity War to the Avengers movies. Crisis on Infinite Earths to you comic book fans that don't really read DC is as important as Secret Wars in Marvel Comics. You can't just throw out Crisis on Infinite Earths. It best be bomb. I don't even mean just the crossover next year, the whole first half of all the shows that's going to be in the crossover for Crisis on Infinite Earths got to be bomb. Okay? I don't want no more lukewarm half parts of the season going into the mid-season finale, blah, 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 blah. Nah, we can't have that. Y'all just introduced Crisis on Infinite Earths. It best be bomb. But I'm with it. I believe in you. Lord, let me. Oh. All right, and here we go. All right. But if you can get past all that stuff, I think you'll enjoy the DC TV crossover Elseworlds. It was a lot of fun, and yeah, you gonna see some stuff in there that you just gonna be like, oh, that was well done. Yes. All right, y'all, but I'm about to get out your hair. If you want, please leave a comment down below with a piece of media to join these other pieces of media somewhere over in this general vicinity. That way I can try and get to it next. And if you saw one that you liked, go ahead and comment it again. That way I can try and get to it a little bit sooner. And if you want to see how you can be rewarded for just helping out Plus You, go ahead and check out our Patreon. That way you can see the rewards that you can get for helping to light the fuse on more content you want to see. I'm Will Knight. Be brave, be bold, be you, and hopefully I will be in your future. Later. Oh, right. By the way, if you don't want to submit a piece of media, you can also submit a noun, two verbs, and an adjective. And like, I'll make a funny skit or something out of it.